Story time about how he cheated on his baby mama with me. So a little background information. There was this boy and we're gonna call him John. John and I knew each other through one of our mutual friends. Well, 24/7, John would post sad quotes on his Snapchat story because him and his girlfriend had just broken up. So I decided that I was going to be Captain Save-A-Ho and be there for him, telling him it was okay and that everything happens for a reason. Well, eventually John had developed a huge crush on me. Like, he would flirt with me 24/7, sending me all these cute emojis. And of course, my dumbass fell for it. So after talking for a little bit, him and I started dating. Well, the one day I was on Snapchat going through his story, and he was posting a bunch of funny memes on his story, and I was just laughing until I got to the last thing that he posted on his story. It was this picture of a baby girl saying, "I can't wait to meet you from Dada." So with my crazy ass, I jumped on the phone and started cussing him out. And then he goes, "What are you talking about? That's my little sister." Like for part 2. Part 2 about how he cheated on his baby mama with me. So like I said, when I confronted him about it, he said that it was a picture of his baby sister. Always with the Alabama shit, for what reason, I don't know. But he calls me the next day and he starts apologizing about everything. And then he decides to make a new Snapchat account and starts talking to me on there, thinking that I was just gonna block his other account. He posts a picture of his baby mama. So at this point, my Virgo self and I were done with the bullshit. By the way, he's a Gemini, so if that doesn't explain it, I don't know what will. So I start dating my new man, and I commented on all of his posts. I guess I'm not surprised she's not the only bitch you're fucking with. And if you try lying, I'm going to spill the tea. Like, I just think that it's really funny how females just think that their men are so loyal, even when you literally expose their man with every piece of evidence. Well, the girl who sent this in has a special message for all of us. I promise you that men ain't shit. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Story time about how I found my uncle sleeping with my best friend. So a little background information. I was 18 at the time and a freshman in college. My uncle was a National Guard, and we were the same age, we went to the same school, and we also had the same friends. And while he was away, I had made one friend that he didn't know about. Her and I became best friends, we got into the same college, and we were in the same dorm room together. Well, the one day my uncle came to my college to surprise me. I ran up to him, I gave him a big hug, and my best friend was super confused because I had never introduced them. And when I introduced them, there was this weird, awkward vibe. So all three of us went back to the dorm room, and I asked her if it was okay that he spent the night, because I didn't want to be that person to just invade her space. So she ended up saying yes, and eventually we all got really hungry, and we all wanted Chick-fil-A, so I went and I left them all alone in the room together. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how I found my uncle sleeping with my best friend. So like I said, I went to go get us Chick-fil-A and I left them in the dorm all alone together. While I was waiting in line, I called them to ask what they wanted and nobody answered the phone. So I was like, okay, whatever, it's fine. They're probably just busy talking. So I low-key took a long time because I went to the grocery store to get some cookies. I was just craving them. So then I get back to the dorm room. As soon as I open the door, I see both of them unclothed on top of each other on the bed, doing the nasty. So for some reason, I had a broom and I threw it at my uncle and I went to my friend's apartment that night. And when I told my mom about it, she said that it was my fault because weirdly enough, they praised all the boys in my family.
My ex and I met when we were both 10. She was and still is my twin sister's best friend, so we've always been kind of a trio growing up. We started dating at 14 and got married at 23. Things got ugly though, because 5 years after getting married, she told me that she had a month-long affair with her coworker. Apparently, the guilt was too much for her, so she confessed. We tried to work through it, but after a few months of trying, I knew that despite the fact that I loved her, I couldn't trust her anymore. She told me that she still loved me and that she'd wait for me and prove that I was the only one. I wanted to believe her, but some things just can't be fixed. We never had kids. 3 years after the divorce, I met my now wife and we got married 2 years after dating. She's everything I could ever dream of in a wife and more. My ex, as my sister told me since they're still besties, never really recovered. She quit her job and is now working at a church. Throughout my relationship with my wife, she kept trying to get back together, and on the day of my wedding, she told me that she still loved me and would love no one else. She said this was the last time that she would bother me, but that she'll wait for however long it took. Apparently, she's honest in that regard because my sister said that she's never been with anyone else. So here's what happened recently. My wife and I are married for 7 years now, have 2 kids. My sister came over with her own kids so the cousins could play. When my wife went to pick out lunch, my sister sat me down and told me the situation about my ex. Apparently, she only has less than 6 months to live. She refused treatment and wants to live the last few months to the fullest. I guess that's why her and my sister really went out of their way to travel despite the pandemic. One thing on her bucket list, though, was that she wanted to feel like my wife again. No sex, no kissing, she just wanted me to be around the house again and maybe hold her from time to time. She still lives in the house that we lived in. I told her that I wouldn't do that because it was pretty much emotional cheating. My sister kept arguing and begging me to at least see her and hear her out. We kept arguing until my wife came back. My sister told her the whole story, and while she looked upset, she said that she understood where my ex was coming from. When my sister left, my wife and I talked about it. My wife knows everything that happened in the past with my ex. She says while she isn't thrilled about the idea, she won't get upset if I decide to go see her on a regular basis. My wife is literally the best thing that ever happened to me, and I love her more than anyone. She makes me happier than I've ever been in my life, even in the good times with my ex. She knows I won't cheat. I also have zero romantic feelings for my ex, so there's nothing lingering there. I don't hate her or anything, it's just the love that I had for her has long since died. After thinking about it for a while, I'm honestly 50-50 on it. I know I don't owe her anything, but I feel like I might regret not seeing her at least one more time since the last time I saw her was on my wedding day, and that wasn't a good encounter for either of us. I honestly feel like, despite what she did, she still deserves to go with some peace. On the other hand, I'm not entirely sure if this might potentially affect our marriage. My wife says she's okay with it, and I believe her, but I just can't be sure that she'll feel the same way after it happens. I don't want anything to jeopardize what I have right now, no matter what. I'm not too thrilled about going myself, to be honest. What should I do? Part 2. My ex wants me to be with her in her last days. I talked to my wife and had a long discussion about the whole situation. I assured her that no matter what, she is and always will be my first priority. I also reassured her that while I wanted to say my goodbye, I would never act like her partner. It would be more like me seeing a childhood friend or something like that. I also said I would never spend the night, nor would I be alone with her. She was more comfortable after our talk and was pretty okay with the idea of me seeing my ex again. Originally, she really felt like she was being forced into being okay with it when my sister asked, but this time, she was really okay. I talked to my sister, and after a long heated discussion, she agreed to the boundaries my wife and I set. A week later, my sister and I came over to our old marital home. It was surreal because while the emotions from years before came back to me, I didn't feel any sadness, hatred, or anything negative. I saw my ex, who was waiting for us in the living room, and she cried when I walked in. You could tell almost immediately that something was wrong with her. I indulged her with a hug and we talked for a few hours while my sister made lunch. I showed her pictures of my kids and told her stories about what they're like. Honestly, I didn't know how I would react after I saw her again, but it just feels like seeing an old friend you haven't seen in a long time. There was no hate or anything like that. I walked around the house and it was pretty much the way it was when I left over a decade ago. I'm not really sure how I feel about our wedding photos still framed in pictures of us all over the house, but it really wasn't my place to say anything. The three of us had lunch and played board games all afternoon. It honestly felt like we were back to when we were kids and the three of us would hang out together. It was nice. I left around 6. She was sad, but she understood. When I hugged her goodbye, she whispered I love you to me, but then said how she's happy I was able to find the happiness she couldn't give me. That part got to me, and to be honest, I was fighting back tears. I told her that I'd see her again soon, and she asked if I could bring my kids next time. I told her I would and left to pick up dinner for my family. I told my wife everything that happened, and she was quite happy about the outcome. I guess it helped that I brought home her favorite food, but she also agreed to let me bring the kids next time. Overall, it was a great experience seeing her again. I feel like I needed that, and I would have regretted not doing so. She made a mistake and paid the price, but it doesn't mean that she's an evil person. I met a guy on Tinder a few weeks ago and we seemed to really hit it off. We had a lot of the same hobbies and I felt the spark between us and I'm sure he felt too. After we got past the talking phase, we decided to meet at his house for coffee. It was great when I arrived. We talked loads and even held hands. However, I was on the 3rd day of my period and after a couple of hours, I needed to change my pad. I asked for the bathroom and he directs me to it. After I finish changing, I notice his trash can is pretty full. Not sure what to do, I wrap it in toilet paper and sort of smooth it into the trash can so it isn't sitting on the edge. We hang out for about an hour more and he excuses himself to the bathroom. A few minutes pass by and he comes out and says that he needs to talk to me. Then he says I shouldn't have thrown away my pad because he might touch it when he's taking out the trash and that it was gross and unsanitary. Apparently, he saw that the trash looked different, unwrapped the toilet paper, and saw my used pad. I was mortified. I apologized profusely and he seemed to take it well. He told me not to do it again and if I needed to, just walk a few blocks to the nearby grocery store to change. I left after that, not to think too much of it. However, I recounted the events to a few friends and they think he's a major a-hole. He was really kind about it and didn't seem to get angry, but I'm also starting to see their point too. Was I wrong to change my pad in his house? My boyfriend and I met 6 years ago when I was sad and eating alone at the bar of a restaurant. It was really love at first sight, but the connection was even stronger after we sat down and started talking. We discovered that not only did we have a ton of great things in common, but we also shared the pain of going through separate divorces during this time. We were both now separated from our spouses, single parents, and going through messy divorces. We exchanged information, but I decided that we both had too much going on, so I never reached out to him and he never contacted me. Over the next year, he crossed my mind, so after my divorce was final, I decided to send him a text. We chatted about being out of our marriages and decided to meet up for dinner. We met and the connection was still there. Things moved pretty fast and within 6 months we were living together. We both co-parent, so our children are with us at different times during the month. He always seemed to battle with their mother over visitation, but I stayed out of it. I've grown fond of his children as he has of mine. We've been happily living together as a blended family for about 5 years. Whenever I mentioned marriage, he always said that his last relationship soured his feelings on it. He's often reassured me that we didn't need marriage to be a family. We have recently begun talking about purchasing a waterfront home as a family property for our kids and possibly retiring there. He's been a great partner and is always planning our future, so my talk about marriage quickly faded. Last month, he planned to surprise me by throwing me a party with close friends and family. Due to state restrictions, he could only invite a certain number of people. An angry family member of his that wasn't invited decided to be messy and spread rumors that it was an engagement party. The following day, I get a text from an unknown number. When I asked who was sending the text, the response was his wife. I confronted my boyfriend and he admitted that he never divorced. She wouldn't give him the divorce and threatened to move away with their children if he went through with it. She also wanted to pursue counseling and wanted him to move back home to give the marriage another try. He complied with not filing for divorce but refused to consider the other demands. It was around this time that he reconnected with me and decided to just move on with his life. Since her text, I've learned that she frequently posts on his social media about their marriage. She'll use old pictures and some current innocent pictures of them together at events for their kids. The captions on the pictures often refer to them as if they were still together. He confronted her about it and she said that he'll be back to her and kept referring to our relationship as an affair. Now that I found out, he's promised to no longer be fearful of her threats and plan to pursue the divorce in custody. However, I'm not sure what I should do in this situation. I'd be so sad without him and his children in my life. Should I walk away or should I give him time to fix it?